The notice requirements provided in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given in the new schedule of meetings of the Spotswood Borough Council on December 27, 2017. The new schedule was transmitted to the Home News Tribune and the Sentinel. It was filed with the clerk of the Borough of Spotswood and posted in the municipal building located at 77 Summerhill Road, Spotswood, New Jersey. And before we stand, I just want to ask for the Pledge of Allegiance for a moment of silence. We've had some local residents die, and I just want to acknowledge them. One is Douglas Carlin. He was a gentleman who was a Spotswood volunteer fireman. He actually grew up across the street from me on Willard Park Circle. A very good guy. He actually went to school with my brothers, and we will miss him. He was a dedicated and enthusiastic fireman. He eventually became chief of the Morgan Fire Department. He loved spending time with his family, and he loved the beach and was a fan of the New York Giants and the New York Yankees. The other one was Maud Cantora. She was 97 years old, God bless her. She died on Saturday. She was a longtime member of Spotswood community. She's been here over 70 years. I actually went to school with her children. She was a longtime member of the Trinity United Methodist Church of Spotswood, and survived by her children, James Cantora and his wife Betty of Spotswood, and Ann Roman and her husband Stephen of Monroe Township. The third person I'd ask you to keep in your thoughts is Joyce Sawicki. She's 76 of Spotswood. She died Wednesday, February 28th. She was active in the senior center, correct, Pat? Joyce?
I don't know about that. I never saw it, but they lived in Clearwater Village.
Okay, so she was a resident of Spotswood. Looks like she had a very large family who will miss her very much. So thank you very much, and let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Stolen?
Here.
Councilman Ritchie? Councilman Malillo?
Here.
Councilman Rivera?
Here.
Council President Rhodes?
Here.
Mayor Sealy?
Here.
We have the resolutions under consent agenda. Council President, council members, I'll take a motion to accept the resolutions on consent agenda, resolutions 2018-53 through 2018-57.
Make a motion we pass the resolutions?
Second.
Councilman Stolen?
Yes.
Councilman Malillo?
Yes. Here.
Councilman Rivera?
Yes.
Council President Rhodes?
Yes. So let's do any reports from the liaisons. John?
Yeah. I got a few here. Okay, tomorrow night, March the 6th, at 7 o'clock at the Board of Education meeting at the high school library. March 15th, at the library in Spotswood on Main Street, 7 o'clock. And I want to wish everybody a happy St. Patty's Day. That's March 17th, so all the nice-looking Irish people, you know, have fun. I'll have a drink with you, too. So that's what I got, Mr. President.
Great, thank you. Kurt?
I have nothing tonight.
I just want to thank the members of the dais and the mayor for their support of the Spotswood Education Foundation Casino Night this past Saturday. Good time was had by all. Helmetta, we had it in their community center, which was much appreciated. That's a beautiful space. And we made some nice money for the kids, so we'll be donating that back to the school district. I also want to talk about the Spotswood Office on Aging. Again, they're looking for people to do a class on Gettysburg. They have a local historian who is interested in offering that to people. They're just getting a sense now of how many people would be interested in that. So if you are interested in it, call 732-251-3432 and let them know. So they haven't set a time or, a date to start, but they just want to see if people are interested. They also had surveys sent out as part of their grant monies that they receive, and 116 surveys were sent out for Office on Aging 2017 information and assistance. And it's amazing the different questions they answered about Medicare, property tax reimbursement, homestead benefits, the PAAD, senior gold cards, utility assistance, home repair and safety grants, referral to another service agency, and referral to another department of the Spotswood Borough. It's so interesting to me, but they, overwhelmingly, how well did we understand your questions and concerns? And out of 116 surveys, very well was 100%. So I think they do a great job down there, and they are much more than bingo, okay? So remember that. And then they had another one on transportation, because they do transportation for medical appointments, also for trips. And again, 100% has used the transportation service, and again, great customer service. So Dawn, if you could just express our appreciation to the Office on Aging on the great job that they've done. And the carnival's coming back to town. We got our permits here. We'll be having a public hearing on that. And they'll be June 12th through 16th. And actually on the 16th, they'll do the fireworks again over the lake. So that's always a great time. And that's it for me. Jose?
I have nothing.
Okay, all right. Ed, Mayor? Nothing? Okay.
Make a motion to open to the public.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Come on up. If you wouldn't mind stepping to the podium and giving your name and address?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Lefty Grimes. I'm from East Hanover, but I used to live in Helmetta for many, many years. I lived here. And I was very happy to hear you say something about wheelchairs, because Spotswood has one of the worst wheelchair access for the sick and the dying I've ever seen in my life. It's all steps on Main Street, all steps. If you're sick and dying, just driving down Main Street, you could see you're not welcome in this town. I advocate for the sick and the dying, and they can't be here tonight because they're home, sick and dying. There's people with cancer, people with MS, people with Crohn's. I'm sick myself. I'm in a lot of pain right now. I'm not feeling well.
Sorry to hear that.
And I use cannabis for my pain. I was on opiates for 10 years. My doctors had me on 90 milligrams of Roxy every 3 hours. It's an incredible amount. And I don't take any pills anymore. I got off of it using cannabis. So I advocate for the sick and the dying that are using cannabis. My friend John came to a council meeting the other night, his second day on chemo. He forced himself to go to the council meeting because they want to ban his medicine in Oceanport. His wife has to drive 2 hours to go get medicine for him right now. If he was on Oxycontin or fentanyl, he can go right down to the pharmacy. But for his medicine that he wants to save his life, for his cancer, his wife has to drive 2 hours to this dispensary up in Woodbridge. That's not compassion. That's not how we should treat other Americans in this society, in this day and age. So I advocate for them. And I'm trying to help them. There's a lot of reasons why Phil Murphy is going to legalize cannabis. A lot of them is social justice, and I believe he's right on those issues, because the drug war is a racist drug war. It was created by a bunch of racists, and if you Google Harry Anslinger, just Google that one name, you'll see how it all spiders out from him. He said horrible things to create racism, to create the drug war, like marijuana leads to pacifism and communist brainwashing. Reefer makes darkies think they're as good as white men. Marijuana is the most violence-causing drug in the history of mankind. There are over 100,000 marijuana smokers in the USA. Most are Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers. Their satanic music, jazz and swing, result from marijuana usage. This marijuana causes white women to seek sexual relations with Negroes, entertainers, and others. I mean, this is garbage, but this is why we have a drug war today. And it's just, now I hear the same rhetoric from groups like RAMP and groups like SAM. And I agree with those groups on a few things. There are some issues that you need to come to us about and talk to us, because edibles are going to be an issue going forward for someone new on cannabis. Somebody new taking cannabis may eat a whole chocolate bar and not realize that the whole chocolate bar is going to get them out of their mind. They'll get in their car and drive. It won't hit them for an hour. It takes an hour, maybe 2 hours to hit them. That is a concern because then you have people on the roads who don't know what they're taking. So it's all about awareness and creating awareness for people and working together to create, this public, a public policy on this. I lost a lot of friends. When I became a cannabis patient, I joined a statistic of 1 out of 10 of us will die every year. If you do the search, 1 out of 10 die. And I've lost a lot of friends. I lost a friend 2 weeks ago from spine cancer, and he couldn't pay into the system. He couldn't afford this that I can get. I have my privilege. I can get this whenever I need it. He's from the inner city. He couldn't get his cannabis, so he got it off the street to treat his cancer. But we have the same problem. I have a disease, he has a disease. We're both doing the same thing, treating each other, except I'm a customer and he's a criminal. That's not America. It shouldn't be that way. Why is he a criminal? Because he's poor? He's not as privileged as I am? That's not fair.
I agree.
And you see what happens. I think you're the nurse, and you see, are you the nurse? Yeah, and you see what's going on in the hospitals. You see all the overdose. 100 people die a day from heroin.
$174.
Thank you.
174 patients a day.
A day.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that it's an exit drug. It's not a gateway drug. There always are a segment of population that are going to abuse things. There's always people that are going to abuse food. They're going to abuse sex. They're going to abuse gambling. They're going to abuse cannabis. There's always those people that are going to do that. But for the most of us that want to get off those pills, it's a great exit drug for me. It got me to sleep for 8 hours a night. I can't tell you how important it is for me to sleep 8 hours a night. I never had that before.
I know.
It changed my life. So I advocate for the sick and dying people that are here, that have forced themselves to come out here to beg you for their lives. I went to a Chris Christie meeting last year where they had a bunch of doctors on a panel. And it was a dog and pony show of sick people being paraded in front of this group, begging for their lives. So, can you please cover my condition? A mother would be like, please cover my son's condition. It was the sickest thing I ever seen in my life. It was sad to see people begging for their lives. And now we're doing that at town councils because town councils are banning their medicine, my medicine. And we want our medicine. We don't want you to ban our medicine. So at the end of our podcast, at Trenton, we do a podcast every Thursday. We have a memorial to all our friends who died, and there's a lot of them. And I just want to have another moment of silence. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Amen.
Hello, Council. Hello, Mayor. How are you? My name is Hugh Giordano. I'm a union representative for the United Food and Commercial Worker Union, Local 152. My union has approximately 1.2 million members across the country, United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. My local has approximately 15,000 members in it in New Jersey. The reason I'm here today is because my union is the union that represents cannabis workers across the country, both in recreational cannabis and medical cannabis. These workers make above the $15 a living wage that is proposed all around these states. And I can give you an example. In Minnesota, a medical dispensary, the custodian makes $18 an hour with full benefits and retirement. Technicians, pharmacy technicians, lab technicians make $22 an hour with full benefits and pension. And cultivators, the growers, make $2,200 a week with benefits and pension. So these jobs create living wage jobs. They create a robust economy and a trickle-down economy as well. It is estimated that by 2025, cannabis will be worth $24 billion, just based on the current states that are currently out right now. And that is expected to increase as states change their laws. The one thing that is interesting, and the reason why I'm here, is because the patients know that since my union represents these workers, that I'm a valuable voice to come out and speak to councils about when they make steps to either ban dispensaries or take steps to pass resolutions to oppose dispensaries. And we think that's a big mistake as a union. When cannabis is slated to create over 200,000 jobs by 2020, and young people are in massive student debt, and senior citizens need ways of getting more income as far as social programs, cannabis can do that. It's proven that that the revenue from the studies in New Jersey are supposed to be between $300 million and $500 million in tax revenues, which can go directly to senior services, after-school programs, and takes a big burden off the working class. So as a union, that's very important to us. The other thing that I think is important to know is that the union is part of the process of making sure that cannabis is regulated and safe. For example, Teamsters represent the alcohol industry. We see Teamsters every single day dropping off wine, beer, and spirits, but we do not see Teamsters giving out to young kids, do we? That's because Teamsters get paid a good wage. Teamsters get a good pension. They're not going to risk a 30-pack of Budweiser to lose that. It's the same with cannabis workers. We also do apprenticeship programs. For example, in California, the UFCW and the State Assembly in California started an apprenticeship program with Oaksterdam University, which is basically the Harvard of cannabis studies. And these workers go through that process, and they are well trained and educated. These workers have degrees in science, math, English, writing, reading, and they're professionals. This is a trade. It's the same thing as being a carpenter or being an iron worker. There's no difference. When we look at also from the medical standpoint of it, we have members that are in the medical program, and we know that. And because medical cannabis is not covered under health care, and because everything is out of pocket, our members are affected. And when they have to travel an hour, 2 hours to fill up a gas tank, $30-40, for poor and sick people in the working class, that's a lot of money. That's not being able to go to the ShopRite or to the Acme and get your food for the week for your family because you just had to spend it on gas and traveling. So I would ask that the council please rethink their position on cannabis. Look at it from the professional side of it. Look at it from the job standpoint of it, and look at it too for the creative side of it too. I'm sure there's a lot of intelligent people in Spotswood who could come up with great business ideas, new ways to incentivize people, and to come up with new ways to create good jobs. I encourage you to visit Garden State Dispensary, which is unionized under the UFCW, and go through a tour.
Is that the one in Woodbridge?
Yes.
Okay.
Please visit before you pass any ordinance officially banning a dispensary. See how protected it is. See how professional it is. And, even on the recreational side, I do believe this, and because I've been through dispensaries, you are safer in a recreational dispensary than you are going to a bank. I mean, it's just the way it's set up. There's cops. A lot of people that are security there are retired police officers. So these are folks who were past union members and are now making wages in retirement to sustain that. So I just think that's something to look into. I know there's a lot of people that are shooting from the hip because of what's being talked about. But there's a lot of information out there, and the union, the UFCW specifically, is here to offer you some guidance on that. So please, any questions, let us know, and we'll be happy to help you out.
Do you have a card?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, I'll give it, I'll...
Leave it over there.
Okay, great, I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
In case anyone else needs to...
Good evening. My name is Richard Morosky, and I live right here in town.
Can you just give it your address?
Sure, 105 George,
Okay, thank you.
just around the corner. Earlier today, I went to a hearing in Trenton concerning this matter, and they went into great detail. There was visitors, representatives, officials from other states like Colorado and California who came out and talked about how the legalization process is working for them. I just so you guys don't have to keep hearing the same things over and over again, I'm not going to reiterate what was probably already said. As a resident of this town, I realize we have values, and these values extend not only in our families but out into our community here. And I understand your trepidation. Honestly, I do. I'll talk about myself for a moment. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 24 years ago. Up until 3 years ago, I was trapped in my home for about 3 years. I've been given everything a litany of different drugs to deal with my malady. Everything from simple, oh gosh, it brings on inflammation. I'm at a loss for words. Steroids, very simple steroids, the same stuff you would get if you got poison ivy, quite truthfully, all the way up to self-injected low-dose chemo. Needless to say, it was debilitating. My illness is debilitating. It's progressive, and it never goes away. I started using cannabis really out of desperation. I was an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker, and I worked in that field for 18 years. I treated people who had addiction problems and folks who had mental illnesses. I understand there are children involved in our community, and I know that's a great concern for anybody. But what I can say in my own little unofficial poll, in my professional opinion, and I can say that with some confidence, that upwards of 90% of the people that I treated started with a substance completely different than what we're talking about tonight. You can use your own imaginations from there. It's kind of staggering to me because it's like on every corner around here you can buy cigarettes. There are several liquor stores and establishments here in town that serve liquor. I was speaking to my daughter. My daughter's 23. Holy cow. I was talking to my daughter and some of her friends, and the subject just came up about the opiate crisis that we're all experiencing here. I know it's going on here in town, and I think you guys realize that as well. And she told me and her friends, this is unsolicited, I overheard them talking about it, how it was easier for them to get heroin as a teenager. My daughter went to right here in East Brunswick, the Botech. So we're talking a local kid. It's much easier to buy a bag of heroin than it is to get alcohol, to go buy a six-pack. And it's a pretty simple equation. It's because it's regulated. It's because adults are supposed to be using it, not children. I'm not going to sit up here and try and pretend that if we legalize this or rezone this or don't rezone this, that problem's going to go away. Truth be told, it may not go away. But what I can say, let's put some hurdles in front of these kids. Give them time to slow down their responses, not be so knee-jerky about this. I know there's social pressures on them to do this stuff. You know, I'm not going to sit here and talk about the evils of marijuana. I think you guys can draw your own conclusions. I personally have not found them. It has been a very effective tool. I'm like the guy, well, I am the guy you'll see at the shop right up here. I'm a father and a grandfather. I don't live my life like Cheech and Chong. I'm not running around smoking marijuana in public. However I can, according to the law. Wherever you can smoke a cigarette, I can smoke tobacco, I can smoke cannabis. I don't do that here in town, only out of due diligence and respect to the folks that live here. Not everyone understands my lifestyle, nor do they have to. It's more important that I understand what I'm doing and have some mutual respect, and I don't think I'm alone in that here in this town. I think people have a lot of common sense. We're hardworking folks. We're, you know, blue-collar and white-collar workers across the board that live right here in Spotswood. And truth be told, I'm sure they don't care what I'm doing in my living room, as I don't care what they're doing in theirs. As long as they're not hurting themselves or anyone else, that's really the beginning and end of my care about it. And I'm sure that probably extends to most other people. Please just take a moment and slow your own thinking down. There is always going to be a revenue stream here in Spotswood for cannabis. It's the same one you've had for the last 80 years. It's illegal, you get arrested for it, and your money gets paid back into the system and therefore back into the township. It bewilders me why a council would want to turn its back on a potential new revenue stream that creates stable jobs, prevents subpar medication from getting out into the world. There are ancillary businesses to consider, not just people who grow cannabis, but people who create the packaging, the people who service the trucks, people who service the machinery they use. All of these jobs will spring up around an industry like this. And I think it's just kind of short-sighted. The last time I checked, there isn't that many industries here in Spotswood, besides stores, convenience stores. This is a real industry. This is something that could certainly bring in tax revenues here. And also, on top of that, really improve the quality of some folks' lives. I mean, servants of the public, not directors of the public. Where's the best interest of the public being served if we just turn our backs on something that could help far more people than it could hurt? And I thank you so very much for taking the time out and listening to us. I really appreciate that, and I hope you all have a good night.
Well, thank you for coming out to speak with us.
You're welcome.
Hi, how's everyone doing this evening? My name is Denise Morosky. That was my husband, Richard. We both live right around the corner. I just wanted to come out tonight and let you guys know that I myself was a patient. I still am. But I had cancer. It was just basal cell carcinoma. But I did have to go to my doctor in California to have it treated. I was prescribed chemo by the doctors here, or said they had to cut my ear off, remove the cancer, and then put my ear back on. And I told them about the other option that I wanted, which is called FICO, full extraction cannabis oil. And it can be topically placed on the cancer, and it can be ingested. Suggested both is done, and it cured my cancer without any chemo, without me having any side effects from chemo. I know women who have breast cancer and they've been off of chemo for 2 or 3 years and they're still having side effects. And my doctors, the oncologist and the dermatologist, I told them both what my plan was. I went back to them, showed them the progress I had made. They gave me permission for 1 more month for it to be completely gone. And it's it. I'm cancer-free today because of the cannabis. I am a smoker, and when I did some research, for the cannabis and alcohol and cigarettes, it was by the there were 480,000 deaths from cigarettes, and 41% included secondhand smoke. And that's scary. They sell cigarettes all over the place. But again, like they said, they're regulated. So that's your choice, whether you want to or not. There were 88,000 alcohol-related deaths. I myself have never drank or been a drinker, but I am afraid to go out when I know that there's nights that people are going to be drinking, like New Year's Eve or something like that. And I mean, it's every day. Last year, you were talking about the opioids. Almost 50,000 people died from prescribed opioids by a doctor. There are also over 700 different illnesses, ailments, diseases that this plant can cure. I go to the doctor right down the street here, and I have older women that are in their 70s and 80s with arthritis, and they'll see me with maybe one of my advocate shirts on or something, and they'll ask me questions. And I'll tell them, and they're very interested. And they actually are very receptive to this, and they're like, how am I supposed to be able to get this? Where can I go? What can I do? So it's not just, it's people of all ages, When we were living in Florida, they had passed Charlotte's Web, which is a cannabis plant that has no THC in it. And it helps these kids from having 300 seizures a day to maybe 4 to 6 a week. And when I heard they passed that law, I'll never forget standing on my front lawn just crying for those kids to be able to get the help that they need. And there are many people that I know, including my husband. I used to wake up every morning afraid that my husband was going to be dead because he wasn't walking in here like he just walked in here now. before he started on this medication. He walked in here like he was an 85 or 90-year-old man. And I used to wake up in the morning, put my hand on his chest or put my finger under his nose to make sure he was still breathing. That's how bad it was. And this is how much it's helped my husband in just 1 year's time. And, the recreational thing, to be very, very honest with you, I'm not a recreational person. I don't like the way that it makes me feel. I take my medication before I go to bed at night so that I don't feel any effects towards it, because the cancer isn't going to be cured just by the CBD. It needs the THC in order to be cured. And I just want to thank you so much. My husband and I have been living here for about 3 years. We absolutely love it. It's a very nice, quaint town. Everyone is very friendly, very, to help, willing, from what I've seen, willing to help someone if they need it. And I'm very proud to live here, and I would be very proud to have a dispensary here. I am from Woodbridge, where they have the dispensary, and I never even knew it was there. It's not like it's got all these pot leaves on the front of it saying, hey, you can get marijuana here. Mm-hmm. It's very discreet. Mm-hmm. And I just want to thank you all for your time and listening, and I hope you would give some consideration to that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up? No? Oh.
Hello, I'm Rose McGill from Lawrenceville, New Jersey.
Can you give your address?
50 Edgards Crossing Road.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to share some history and a few health benefits of cannabis in order to address some of the fears people may have. Cannabis and hemp are of the same species, so they were grouped together and outlawed in America 80 years ago by way of the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937. Hemp was a major crop, and it was surreptitiously included in the ban because it threatened the profits of several high-pollution industries, such as oil, fossil fuels, pesticides, timber, cotton, and pharmaceuticals. These industries continue to dominate our money markets and pollute our drinking water, air, land, and sea. This pollution is the root cause of most of our terrible diseases and is a severe detriment to the health of the entire natural world, our biodiversity, and our ecosystem. When they outlawed cannabis with a false information and racist campaign, they grouped hemp into the ban for the purpose of pure greed, because it has hundreds of uses and no mind-altering effects. Hemp was the first plant to be spun into fiber 10,000 years ago. There are records of cannabis and hemp being used around the world as an herbal medicine from at least 6,000 years ago. 6,000 years before Christ. It was brought to colonial America and was a major crop all the way up until 1937. It was used for paper, textiles, clothing, paint, insulation, building material, and a healthy and nutritional food. It can now be used as a biofuel and biodegradable plastic. Growing hemp purifies water and soil and can be used as a natural and safe weed control instead of pesticides. We are now slowly allowing hemp to be grown in the United States again after 80-year ban, but the fact that it was outlawed at all should inform you of how blatantly corrupt the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 is, and is the law by which we are still being controlled. If you look at the big picture, you can see how these policies left a hypocritical, morally repugnant and destructive wake in its path. We allow our kids to grow up on commercially mass-produced and packaged food-like products from the supermarket shelves that are chemically manipulated to cause intentional addiction. We have fast food and donuts on every other corner that contain fake food ingredients, sugar, and fillers that can cause many diseases, including cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. We sell alcohol with bright colors, big parties, cartoon characters, talking animals, girls wearing bikinis, which trivializes and promotes circus-like drinking. Then, when we get sick from all of that, we are sold toxic combinations of synthetic chemical drugs that are pumped into our homes at every television commercial break, with happy people wearing khakis and polo shirts, dancing around to jazzy music, while they subliminally sneak in at the end all of the dangerous and disgusting side effects of the drugs. My government then wants to tell me that a plant that was put on this earth by everybody's God is evil and dangerous, and I will be arrested if I use or plant it. By trying to ban or keep this plant illegal, you are perpetuating one of the biggest lies ever forced onto the American people. Cannabis is one of the most complex and versatile plants on the planet. There are ways to use it as a medicine that do not have mind-altering effects. It can be used as a preventive medicine, it maintains health, it builds brain cells, it promotes homeostasis, equilibrium, and overall health, a major threat to the pharmaceutical industry. Cannabis as a healing medicine is used for cancer, multiple sclerosis, migraines, seizures, PTSD, pain, inflammation, depression, alcoholism, and stress. Stress, which is the root cause of most disease. The drug war has failed. America is paying for people to be arrested, processed, and put in jail for using a plant. It is not a gateway drug. It is inconsistent logic to say that an adult American citizen cannot use a plant because you are afraid your kids are going to get addicted to man-made deadly drugs. It is the responsibility of each parent to teach their own children about the world. We already have laws on the books for impaired driving, and we can easily add more guidelines for its general use in public places for people who are not medical patients. If you truly understand the value of this plant, then you would not try to ban it. I printed out some research that you may share with your residents in order to educate them about the health benefits. So I'll leave this here.
You could just over by the mayor. Just leave it on his
Thank you.
desk because the buck stops with him. Thank you for sharing your stories. Do you want to come up? Come on up.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone's time, attention, and consideration. It's a very serious topic. I think we all agree. And the status quo is, I think, a failure right now.
Can you just give your name
Oh,
and
sure.
address?
I'm sorry.
Thank
I
you.
apologize. My name is Jeffrey King. I actually live at 24 Elizabeth Parkway in the Borough of Eatontown, County of Monmouth.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I was in Trenton all day today, actually, also at the Assembly Oversight Committee. Very enlightening, very interesting to hear the discussion at a higher level where everyone is extremely well informed, the people on both sides of the issue, all sides, because it's not really a binary issue. If you sat in the room, you'd hear everyone has a different point of view. Everyone has a different perspective of where we are, where we have come from, and where we're going. And that's here in New Jersey, in any given municipality. And then people were testifying from, as you heard, California and Colorado and Arizona, both pro and con. So I think even in that room, we all agree that there's a lot more to learn and a lot of research and due diligence to be done before we draw conclusions. And I did see in the article that we all are still committed to learning more. I think that's essential, regardless of your personal opinion of pro or con. I appreciate this. Actually, this is very informative. I didn't see, actually, is this in the borough here?
St. Peter's University Hospital is where I work.
Okay.
I'm a nurse practitioner there, and that's, we're doing a conference on March 21st, and with a follow-up conference on April 24th, and we're going to be talking about addiction and the opioid overdose, and the recovery programs and resources and support for families. Actually, I go out and talk about opioid overdoses in the community with a friend who lost her daughter here in town to an opioid overdose, and a police chief from Sayreville. So we've educated over 3,400 school children already in multiple towns, and truly it is a complex issue.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I really do. I think we all agree. We want, regardless of how you feel about drugs in general, the children are the priority. And we want anything, whether it's alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, adult, safe, responsible use. And that includes the prescription drugs that we use professional guidance on. So it was interesting today hearing from the professionals in Trenton. I've also been an activist for a long time. I was with Mr. Grimes at the medical review panel, and that was heartbreaking to see the people that were begging.
Yeah.
And I was moved to tears. I was, and it doesn't happen every day for me. I thank God I'm healthy. I don't have people directly suffering, although everyone knows someone, I think, that could benefit from medical marijuana. So as we move the discussion forward, I really would like to hear more emphasis on how can we help the patients? What can we do for people that are suffering to get them medication without having to drive as far, without having to jump through the hoops, to get a better quality of medication, better selection, safe and available and affordable. So home growing, if you're against retail stores, I really don't care about retail stores. I don't want to see advertising and billboards. It should be for pain management, chiropractors, acupuncture, massage, therapeutic. The endocannabinoid system it's something we're still researching. So if we regulate it and tax it, we can use those funds to educate about safety on the roads and safety for children access, and then we can do research about how it can better help people. CBD, it's something we're just starting to learn about. Even out west, they don't, Israel is a leading country. Europe is definitely, there's studies there. If we don't have the studies, they're out there if you want to see them. So the medical people need more advocacy. They need love and compassion and support. And I urge you as leaders with the bully pulpit to talk to people with that in mind. Another point that I haven't really heard as much that I wish I would hear more about is the racial justice aspect of it. This is pragmatic harm reduction, really, and the statistics are heartbreaking, and it's sobering to hear. I've known that a person of color is 3 times more likely to be arrested for a similar usage rate as a Caucasian person in New Jersey. I think anytime we talk about marijuana, we have to keep that in mind, that is happening, and road safety is important, but so is equality and justice under the law. So please don't lose sight of that. Don't forget that. And you need to fight for all of the people. Don't just fight for people who look like us. We need to stick up for justice. For an injustice towards one is an injustice towards all. I was amazed actually hearing today. I don't get more details. I need to research this. But some of the legislative districts, it's 5 and 8 times more likely a person of color is arrested. So the people in those districts really need to consider what's happening when they move forward and show some leadership, at least speak to that. You can also have your doubts about road safety and children's access, but you have to please don't ignore the racial justice side of this. It's a failure. I mean, we have a history that we've already talked about that, but now we're going forward and we can't repeat the mistake that we've been making. So those are the main points I wanted to bring up tonight that I think need to be emphasized: civil rights and social justice. So I appreciate your time and your consideration. I really do. I want to move forward and turn the page, get on the right side of history, end the drug war, and start a new drug peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your views.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Motion to close?
Make a motion to close the public portion.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's it.
I want to say thank you to all of you who came out tonight. I know it's a passion. I heard some very emotional speeches. I'm glad that you came out, and you feel free. This is not a bully pulpit in Spotswood. We are always open to people coming and speaking with us about any topic. I hope you felt that we were listening, and I appreciate your leaving your card and your materials. I promise you we will look at them. Basically, Kurt, you want to just explain what we did with the resolution?
Well, yes, and I wanted to say also, I have great respect for yourselves, your situations, and the way you presented your argument tonight. I mean, we might be on separate sides of an issue recreationally, and that's one thing we did with the resolution. The resolution was just dealing with recreational marijuana and not medical. And I think we even spoke at the meeting that it's pretty much undisputed that there is medical benefits to that. And that's what the resolution was for, was recreational. But I do have great respect for the presentation you made tonight.
Yeah, medical marijuana, there's no question. It is something that is, as we heard from some of you tonight, how it's helped you. My brother has epilepsy. It has helped him, and it is undisputed that many children are able to function much better. So, again, thank you for sharing your stories. Any comments from the council? Any, John?
No, I'm good.
Jose?
No, the next meeting's the 19th, that's it. That's it, come back and you say more, whatever you have, something new.
Okay.
But the rec is out.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. We're going to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.